I was able to work with Mr. Kudelka in the last piece he set here, Almost Mozart. So whenever he came in this time, I was very excited. I'd already built somewhat of a relationship with him during Almost Mozart. He's one of a very focused choreographer and has a lot of intent. And you can tell whenever he comes into the studio, it's already been done in his head before.
There wasn't music that we could listen to beforehand. There wasn't a video tape that somebody might watch, or you might have seen the piece before in another company. It's all just completely new, and I think, but very exciting. And I mean, the first thing that happened in our rehearsal was, I start walking, and I'm supposed to walk with my arms like this, and that's obviously not what we usually do. And so he told me, like, you're at a wall, and took me up to a wall and put my hands on it.
I absolutely love the process of being involved in the creation of a new work because, well, for one thing, you're not stepping into someone else's shoes. You're filling those shoes yourself. And, I mean, the day before, the moments before you go into the very first rehearsal for a new ballet, it's just, I feel this incredible sense of freedom because nothing's happened yet. And so there's just limitless possibilities of what is going to happen and what you're going to do and what you're going to be asked to do and what your fellow dancers are going to do, what you're going to see and what you're going to experience. And it's sort of like the last moment of innocence before there's all these responsibilities and things that you have to do. Like, it could be anything. You never know.
The process of making this ballet is sort of just this, it's a solo harp, and there's not a whole lot in just listening to the music or to watch your own little bit to really be able to understand what's going on in his head. And then, like, as the ballet is starting to come together now, you can sort of be like, oh, now I'm starting to see where he's getting at. But then, the next day you see all the same steps again. You're like, no, it's something else. And every time you see it, it sort of turns into a new thing, and it's kind of like coming, it builds into this thing as we go along. It's really been great.
Whenever I think of James Kudelka and his choreography, I think of depth. There's so many layers to each movement through a piece that he creates.
Very, very intent on detail, and maybe not so much detail, but specificity. And he's very specific about what he wants, and may not actually tell you right away, but continues to give you more clues and direction as the process goes on. But he is very, very specific about points, and it has to be just so. And he keeps using the phrase, it wants to be this, it wants to be this, the arm wants to go there, you want to go this direction. And I think that's his way of cluing us into the fact that it should be natural and organic, and that's the way the steps should flow.
Working in our piece, and I think this probably goes for other people as well, is I sort of feel like when he's obviously creating the movement off of nothing and doing everything almost, out of thin air. But as he does it, it almost feels like he's, putting words to a sentence that hasn't been spoken yet or whatever. It's like, it almost felt as that as you sort of figure out, he's like, well, it goes this way, but then, well, like she said, it wants to be this way, or it wants to, whatever he said initially might not have exactly been what he wanted, but what he wanted was sort of already there. And as you find where it fits in, it's almost as if, the piece had existed before you learned it. You just, even though it's being created, and that's sort of where his genius comes in, is that, it didn't exist before, but you get the feeling that it did.
As we rehearse and as I watch other people's sections and work on our own section some more, it's just like putting little pieces of a puzzle together, or like dabbing little more bits of paint on to complete a picture, or see a picture start to emerge from something. So, I think it's about one of the most valuable.
Just came in feeling like he knew what he wanted, and it was just a matter of finding it ourselves. So then you'll be working on things, and one day you'll kind of have an epiphany, like, oh, well, of course, this is what it was supposed to be. So it's been a completely different experience than one that I've had before.
And James' piece, Hush, it has a little bit more of a freedom of movement to it somewhat, but he's very structured, and whenever you go in to learn new choreography, I think that you kind of have to be as open-minded as possible and just be putty for the choreographer to push against.